Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it may be at the time that you are listening to this podcast. I am your host, Miss Unique, and welcome to Beyond Unique Shattered Dreams, where every shattered dream becomes a sometimes harsh reality. And for today, I decided to start my very first story time with my most important unique soul family member. Drum roll, please. Brrrr. My mother. Yes, without her, this journey would not be. And it's some very unique reasons why I am choosing to do my first story time with my mother. And just a disclaimer, if anyone may think or want to ask, did she get permission before she told all this? I actually did. I talked to my mother, and my mother has shared her story with her circle of people. So those who may know her that listen to this story may know these aspects and parts of this story. And those that don't, well, sit back and enjoy this ride. I decided to talk about my mother first, like I said, because without her, I would not have went on any of these journeys because I would not be here. Furthermore, for anyone who knows my mother that's listening to this, um, they they know. For anyone that knows her, they know. Um, I am deciding to give my mother her flowers while the public is listening. I often give my mother her flowers just with me and her talking, praying together, having moments together. So this is not the first time that she would hear this or anything like that. But um, my mother is an amazing, beautiful woman. Um, she has shown so much to me over the years in strength and dedication and determination and justice, just so many things. My mother has a beautiful heart, a heart of gold sometimes, and she wants to help everyone and be there for everyone as much as she can. She is a amazing matriarch of the family. I think that my grandmother, which is her mother, was that in our family, but she passed away many, many years ago. Many, many years ago. I think when I was a child. And she's now the matriarch of the family. I remember her saying one day, I didn't choose to be this. I wasn't trying to be this. And hey, right? That's the cards that she have been dealt at this time in her life. So she is the matriarch in our family, and she has a awesome job of taking care of people. She is a social worker, and she works at a um, psychiatric facility. So she definitely comes across a lot of things on a regular, on a regular daily basis. And she still keeps going. And I love her so much. She is definitely just my heart, and I love to help my mother and be there for her in any way that I can because she has been so gracious, so understanding um, with me in my journeys. And it hasn't always been that way. She hasn't always understood everything that I have shared with her necessarily, but nevertheless, she has been supportive. And I think at the end of the day, that's what we all would love to have if we have the opportunity is support from our family, our loved ones, those that we truly care about, especially our parents, our mother, our father, if that is a possibility in your family. So here we go. Well, couple of major things, couple of pretty major things about my mom. When my when my mom was two, I think 2 or 2.5 years old, my mother had a lot of sisters and brothers. I believe it was 10 of them altogether. I'm not really sure how many girls, how many boys. I don't think it was like even 5 boys, 5 girls, but I believe that it was 10 of them. And one of her brothers, I believe she was 2 or 2.5 years old. One of her brothers, which I believe was around 7 years old or so, um, shot my mother with a double barrel shotgun. Yes, let that sink in. She was 2 or 2.5 years old. Her brother was only 7 himself. Now, how he got the gun and where it came from, I'm not really sure, right? I didn't get that part of the story. I don't remember that part of the story. But let's just say they didn't have no business being where they were, wherever they were at with this gun. I don't know. But so her brother shot her in the stomach, I believe, um, with a double barrel shotgun. Let that sink in. I know. And my mother talks about her being, I think she said she was is it called light flighted? Y'all know what I'm talking about. She was lifted up in the air with a helicopter, right? As a baby and rushed over to the hospital. And um she said that at that point in time, I guess she was one of the youngest. Like all doctors and things came from all over to see her because she was one of the youngest survivors, right? A 2 year old, 2.5 year old of uh, a rifle of a gunshot wound, right? Back then, especially that magnitude. And she said that they came from all over, right? From all over to work on her and to kind of experiment with her and different things like that, right? And needless to say, she clearly made it because I'm here. Well, that was 2.5 years old. And I won't go into all of those details because those deep details are is her story, right? But moving on to the next situation, should I say more than a situation? She was about 6 years old, or she tells it or so, and she was going to the candy store with her. I don't know if it was her siblings or friends or something like that. And she was supposed to be going to the candy store. And I think she said that the other children ran ahead, and either she was telling them to wait for me, or she was behind them as she was crossing the street, and she gets hit by a car. I know. I know. That's not it though. She then gets hit by a truck. I know. What? And then by a taxi cab. Yes, back to back to back. And as she tells this story, she says that they sent her to the hospital, and she said that they had pronounced her deceased. They had pronounced her dead. Yes. And she she told me that the nurse put a tag on her toe. Because back then, you know, they put this tag on your toe when you are deceased, and they pulled the covers over her head and everything. And the nurse was rolling her out to take her to the morgue. And then she says that her fingers started wiggling, fingers started moving, and the nurse seeing her fingers moving, and they then realized that she was still alive. What? My goodness, right? So that was two, and then here she goes, 4 years, almost five, 4, 5, 4.5, 5 years later, and yeah, right, almost speechless. The devil really didn't want her to be here, right, at all. And she definitely has even another story like this when she got older. But the reason why I'm gonna stop here with this one is because as she was growing up from those couple of situations, right? Those couple of things that happened, tragedies that happened in her life, as she grew up, she says she remembers going to the doctor and her doctor telling her mom that she would never have any children, right? So to prepare her for that. And she said her mother would have conversations with her and tell her the very same thing. And she would tell her to tell the men in her life, her boyfriends and different men in her life, that as she grew up, right, to let them know that she wouldn't be able to have any children. And so that's what they believed. And then she says all of a sudden, around, I believe, 19 or so, she had my brother. So we're about 9 years apart. She had my brother, and she said her mother didn't really believe it then, right? Because of what they had always told her. And then 9 years later, here I come. 9 years later, here I come, right? And here I am with in a in a time where she definitely didn't expect it. She said her mother refused to believe it, right? And she often tells a really funny story. My mother is a smoker, and a story that she tells all the time, and I am not. And she tells the story of when she was pregnant with me, that every time she tried to put a cigarette up to her mouth or take a puff of any kind, I would immediately begin to kick her extremely hard to the point that she could not even do it anytime. And she would have to put the cigarette out and she would have to put it down because I would put her in so much pain. So much pain. So she consistently tells that story. So that is my mother, and that is a little bit, just a little bit about how I clearly got here, right? So somebody wanted me to get here and wanted me to be here because definitely she didn't expect the first one to come, but surely 9 years later, she definitely didn't expect me, right? So I'm gonna end story time with that, right? And I just want to talk a little bit about what the unique blessing in this story was, right? The unique blessing in this story was the fact that my mother was told that she would never have any children. And here is the proof that God has the final say, right? Here is the proof that God has the final say, that no matter what it is, God has the final say. And I ended up being a unique blessing. I ended up being a unique blessing to my mother and my brother, which is her first child. And she didn't think that she would have any children, and she ended up having two. So look at God, right? Look what God can do. So that is absolutely a unique blessing in this story. And I just want to end it here. I know this was a little bit of a long one today. So join me for the next story time where we are healing shattered dreams one story at a time. Bye.